Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over the learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to understand the concept of closure on finite sets, how to use tables and examples to determine if a set is closed, and to recognize that division by zero is always undefined, to recognize all numbers as being part of the number system, to determine which number set within the number system a number belongs, and to recognize that numbers can belong to multiple number sets at the same time. How are we learning it? Through the finite set closure notes and the finite set closure assignment, as well as the number system notes and the number system assignment. When can we use this information? To perform simple calculations, such as a budget, by recognizing boundaries of numbers, to determine if adding the items in your budget will stay within your income amount, and to understand how number sets are affected by mathematical operations throughout the remainder of the course. How do we know we learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the finite set closure assignment and a 4 on the number system assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over the learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. Next, we'll do our weekly raffles. After that, we'll go over the finite set closure notes, and I'll give you time to complete the finite set closure assignment. Next, we'll do the number system assignment. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Reasoning with Integers study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the number system notes. We begin with our learning goals and success criteria. And from there, we move on to our poster. And this goes with the assignment that you'll do on Desmos. So what I want us to do is we're going to talk about the different parts of the number system and talk about them in terms of the way we learn them. So when you first start learning your numbers, most people don't start with -6 or -2 or something like that. Most of us start by counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what we start with. We call those the natural numbers. Those are the numbers that we learn naturally. Those are the first things that we learn. So we call those the natural numbers. And the symbol for natural numbers is n. So we use n to symbolize natural numbers. And some examples of this are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's what we learn first. Now, once we start talking about natural numbers and we start learning our numbers, after we know how to count up to 10, 20, 30, 40, the next thing we learn is there's a number that represents nothing. We have to add that in. When you say, how many apples do you have? We need to be able to say, I have no apples. So we learned that there was 0. And we call that whole numbers. Whole numbers are n with the little subtext of 0. So what that means is the natural numbers plus 0. So that's what we learned. We learned that there are natural numbers and then we learned there's 0. So examples of this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Now once we learned that there was 0, the next thing we learned was, hey, there's numbers on the other side of 0 also. We learned that there were negative numbers. And we call those integers. And the symbol for integers is z. So these include all the whole numbers, so all the natural numbers and whole numbers, but the negative versions of them as well. So it includes -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, etc. So that's what we learn next. After that, we learn that there are what we call non-negative rational numbers. Now, what is a rational number? It's a fraction. So we learn there's numbers between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, between 3 and 4, etc. So we learn that there are numbers between. And at first we learn that these fractions are positive. So that's where the non-negative part comes in, and then rational numbers just means fractions. So these were positive fractions. So the symbol for that is Q, which is a symbol for rational numbers or fractions. And then the plus sign here stands for positive only. So examples of this would be 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1/1, which is 1. So if you notice, 1 isn't been included in every set. 1/1 is 1, 1, 1, and 1. So we have non-negative rational numbers. Then we learned that there are other rational numbers. There are negatives as well. So the rational numbers are the negative and positive fractions. So in this case, the symbol is Q. And some examples would be negative 1/2, negative 1/4, and 1/4 and 1/2. After we learn that there's fractions, then we learn that there's real numbers. So real numbers are numbers that can be found on the real number line, but can't be written as fractions of integers. So real numbers, the symbol is R. And some examples of this are like pi, square root of 2, e, ln. Those are all examples of real numbers. After real numbers, we learned that there were complex numbers. These are the imaginary numbers. The symbol for that is C. And some examples of these would be like I, 2 plus 3i, and square root of negative 1. So all of these would be complex numbers. So this is the number system. And what you should notice, like I said earlier, is numbers like 1, for instance, are in every set. So any number that's here in the natural numbers is also a whole number. It's also an integer. It's also a non-negative rational number. It's also a rational number, and real number, and complex number. And it continues to work its way down. So every integer is also a rational, a real, and a complex. So we can continue to look at this and work our way down. So every real number is also a complex number. So numbers can belong to multiple sets at one time, but there's only one set where they directly fall in. It's the first instance of them falling into the set. Let's talk now about how to sign in to Desmos to complete your work. So what we're going to do is you're going to click on the link to go to the assignment, and it should take you to a page that looks kind of like this. And right here where it says sign in with Google, we're going to click there. And it's going to pop up with our email accounts. You're going to click on your school email account, and it should already have you logged in because you should have already been logged in using Google Classroom. From there, I'm just going to click Start the Activity, and it will take me into the assignment and allow me to begin. So that's how you will log in to Desmos using Google. Let's talk now about how to complete the number system assignment. If you look at the top of the page, you have your learning goals and success criteria here. If you scroll down, there's a link here to the Desmos activity. We're going to go ahead and click on that link, and it takes us to the number system assignment. We're going to go ahead and click Start the Activity. It begins with our learning goals and success criteria, and if we click Next, it'll take us to the table that represents the number system. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and type in the first part of our number system using the notes that we just went over. So the first thing is natural numbers. So we'll just go ahead and put natural numbers. So that's the first part of our number system. The symbol for that, we said, was N. So there's my symbol. And our examples were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So those are some examples of our natural numbers. Then we'll move on. And at the very end, we end up with complex numbers. So that goes in there. The symbol for that is C. And our examples would be I, 2 plus I, square root of negative 1. And you'll just type those in. So we have a few examples of each of them. So you'll fill in the table using the notes. So it should go natural, then whole numbers, then integers, rational numbers, real numbers, and non-negative rational numbers. So that's how the table should work. Make sure that you fill in each of the boxes. When you're done, you'll go back to your Google form and click Next, and that should send you on to your before you go. So answer your before you go, and then submit your work using Google Classroom.